Have you ever done everything right yet still watched someone else win with half the effort? You kept your word, you stayed kind, you followed every rule, and still you were overlooked. The Stoics would tell you, life does not reward virtue, it rewards clarity. And clarity begins when you stop confusing goodness with effectiveness. Machiavelli never taught cruelty, he taught survival. He stripped away illusion and exposed what power truly requires. Not blind honesty, not performative kindness, but the courage to understand how people really move beneath the surface, what they fear, what they chase, what they pretend to be. This is not about becoming ruthless, it's about becoming awake. Because when you can see the game for what it is, you are no longer a piece on the board. You become the one who sets the terms. If you're ready to see what most choose to ignore, stay with me. What comes next may not be comfortable, but it will be useful. 1. Lead with respect, not approval. According to Machiavelli, if you must choose between being loved or being feared, fear is the more reliable path. Not because fear is noble, but because it is stable. People's affection wavers, their admiration changes with the weather. But fear, true, grounded fear built on respect, establishes boundaries. It holds its shape even when emotions do not. When your influence rests only on love, it vanishes the moment people stop adoring you. But when they respect the weight of your presence, when they understand there are consequences to crossing you, that influence endures. This is not a call to cruelty, it's a reminder to be steady. In the Stoic tradition, control begins within, but it extends outward when you live with such discipline that others feel it before you speak. Fear, in this sense, is not terror, it's gravity. It's when people pause before interrupting you. It's when they think twice before testing your boundaries. Just as nature respects the storm and no animal mocks the lion, your presence should say, I do not seek control, I already have it. Machiavelli also understood something deeply aligned with Stoic practice, that appearance shapes reaction. People rarely see the full truth, they respond to what you project. If you appear calm, calculated and capable, they treat you as such. Perception is not deception, it's armor. It's the way a wise man walks into a volatile world and remains untouched. The Stoics teach us not to seek praise, but to be deliberate in how we carry ourselves. Machiavelli would add, when they believe you are unshakable, they adjust, not you. To lead with fear in this way is to master duality. Be the lion who cannot be pushed, and the fox who sees every hidden trap. One without the other is weak. Force without foresight is blind. Cunning without strength is fragile. But the man who holds both, who can sit quietly, wait, observe, and then strike with precision, becomes unassailable. Too often people announce their goals too early. They reveal their movements out of eagerness. But the Stoic watches and waits. He doesn't need to speak to feel heard. He doesn't need to expose his hand to feel valid. Machiavelli said your intentions should be like a blade under your cloak, felt but never seen. Let others guess. Let them misread you. That is your advantage. Because influence isn't loud. It doesn't beg to be noticed. True power is silent until it must speak. And when it does, it is final. So the question isn't whether they admire you. The question is, will they hesitate before moving against you? That hesitation, that stillness in their response, is where real control begins. Let's now explore what it means to hold that silence as strategy and why appearing predictable is the first mistake of anyone who seeks to rise. 2. Let go of being liked. Most people want to be liked. They seek comfort in approval, they avoid tension, and in doing so, they give away their power. When your actions are guided by the hope of being accepted, you stop living by reason and start living by reaction. The Stoics warned against this. Placing your peace in the hands of others is the fastest way to lose it. And Machiavelli knew it too. The need for validation makes you predictable, makes you vulnerable, and worst of all, makes you easy to control. Flattery becomes a tool. Kindness becomes a mask. When people sense that you need their approval, they use it to shape your behavior. They don't even need to push you. They just need to hint that you might be left out, misunderstood, or judged, and you'll move yourself. But the moment you no longer seek approval, everything changes. You start choosing what works, not what pleases. You stop negotiating with people's emotions and start aligning with principle. This doesn't mean becoming cold, it means becoming firm. To walk the path of a true strategist, you must accept a hard truth. To win, you may need to be disliked. Progress often demands decisions that others won't understand, and that's not a flaw in the plan, that's the cost of clarity. The Stoics taught that the wise man stands alone when necessary, not for pride, but for purpose. Machiavelli simply stripped away the sentiment. Leadership requires the strength to be doubted, the patience to be misjudged, and the will to endure both without apology. Loyalty, too, is not what it seems. Machiavelli did not believe in blind devotion. He believed in loyalty that is tested, observed, and re-evaluated over time. People are loyal to their advantage. If being loyal to you serves them, they will stay. The moment it doesn't, many will walk away. That's not betrayal, it's reality. And reality, the Stoics remind us, must be faced without complaint. Build alliances based on mutual strength, not illusion. Reward loyalty, yes, but never depend on it blindly. In times of chaos, most panic. But chaos is not the enemy, it is the revealer. The world scrambles, and while others lose themselves, the disciplined mind prepares. This is where opportunity is seized, not in perfect conditions, but in disorder. Machiavelli said, "Fortune favors the prepared." The Stoics would say, if the storm comes, be the one who remains unmoved. You're already in the arena. The question is not whether you're in the game, but whether you're playing it well. Are you living to be praised or to be effective? Are you shaping life or being shaped by it? Most people follow rules they've never questioned, ideals they've never examined. But to be free, you must look deeper. Not everything noble leads to victory. Not every enemy looks like one. And not every smile means goodwill. The world won't hand you clarity. You must train yourself to see beneath appearances. Every conversation is a map. Every compliment is a move. Every silence is a message. The average mind reacts. The strategic mind anticipates. And to anticipate, you must first let go of your need to be liked. Because when you no longer seek applause, you finally hear the truth beneath the noise. Now, let's turn to how that truth becomes your edge, when silence, restraint, and calm presence become the sharpest tools you have. 3. Stay calm, stay dangerous. If you want to master strategy, you must first master yourself. The Stoics taught that a man who cannot govern his own mind is a slave, easily provoked, easily deceived, easily ruled. Anger makes you transparent. Ego makes you predictable. Restlessness exposes your position before you've even made a move. But the man who is steady, who does not flinch, becomes unreadable. And what cannot be read cannot be manipulated. Machiavelli would say, never show all your cards. Do not reveal how deeply you care, what you fear, or what you seek. That isn't coldness. It's clarity. What you protect stays yours. What you display becomes a tool for others. A well-timed silence carries more power than an unguarded reaction. True strength is not in loud declarations, but in doing what must be done, especially when no one applauds. That is discipline, and discipline is the root of power. A Machiavellian presence doesn't shout. It shifts the atmosphere. It causes others to reconsider their next move, not because you force them, but because your composure demands it. You become difficult to provoke, impossible to predict, and therefore hard to control. People fear what they can't anticipate, and what they fear, they respect. While the world rushes, distracted and scattered, your focus becomes your edge. Where others chase applause, you build. Where others complain, you calculate. Stoic mastery isn't just about endurance, it's about preparation. And preparation is not an event. It's a way of life. You either sharpen your edge daily, or you dull it unconsciously. There is no neutral ground. Fortune, as both the Stoics and Machiavelli knew, bends toward the prepared. The world does not reward those who wait for the perfect moment. It rewards those who create one. So act. Move before you feel ready. Decide while others are still asking questions. This isn't recklessness, it's strategic momentum. Study others not to criticize, but to understand. Every reaction, every avoidance, every excess reveals something. The one who sees clearly without illusions gains advantage without conflict. But clarity alone is not enough. You must be flexible. The rigid mind breaks. The strategic mind bends, adapts, and recalibrates without losing its core. That's why the most dangerous individuals are often difficult to define. They are not confined by one identity. They become whatever the moment requires, while staying anchored in principle. And remember, gaining power is not the end. Holding it is harder. Once you rise, new threats emerge. Enemies disguise themselves. Applause turns into expectations. The Stoic leader remains realistic, not cynical. He assumes betrayal is possible, even from familiar faces. He plans decades ahead while others chase days. He protects his position not with pride, but with quiet foresight. Let go of temporary emotion to protect permanent vision. Don't explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Don't fight battles that don't matter. Machiavelli put it best. Never beg for a seat. Build your own table. That's not arrogance. That's sovereignty. And sovereignty begins with silence, with stillness, with the kind of presence that moves the world, not because it screams, but because it doesn't have to. And now, let's explore how your very presence, quiet, watchful, and composed, can become your most powerful move. 4. Your name is your power. Your reputation walks ahead of you. It enters rooms before you speak, and in the eyes of others, it often carries more weight than your words. That's why Machiavelli insisted, protect it with discipline. A tarnished name weakens your stance. It invites challenge. It makes your allies hesitate. Think of your name as a fortress. Every careless comment, every unmeasured move is a brick removed from its walls. So build it slowly, strengthen it daily, and defend it with precision. You cannot control whether people judge. You can only shape what they judge you by. Understand this, and you begin to shape perception with presence. The Stoics taught that external opinion is outside your control, but your conduct is not. And reputation, when forged through consistent conduct, becomes a shield no slander can penetrate. There is also power in being overlooked. When you are underestimated, others lower their guard. That's when you observe. That's when you move freely. That's when you build without resistance. Machiavelli didn't preach noise. He taught movement, quiet, deliberate and unseen until it is too late. Patience in this way becomes a weapon, not passive waiting, but active calculation. While others seek applause, you refine your craft. While they chase recognition, you shape outcomes. And when the moment is right, you don't explain, you execute. That is how lasting power is built, not in the spotlight, but in the stillness where real decisions are made. From this stillness, we now step into clarity. 5. See through the illusion. Life often looks like a feast, warm welcomes, polite gestures, friendly words. But as Machiavelli warned, beneath the surface, it is a battlefield. Most people are not driven by truth, but by appetite, status, influence, recognition. And when the feast ends, so do the smiles. That is why your strategy must become your armor. Let no one see your hunger. Let no one detect your ambition. Flow like water, adaptable on the outside, unbreakable within. Most are not seeking clarity. They seek comfort. They protect their illusions because the truth demands effort. And when your presence exposes their pretenses, they resist. So do not waste your voice on closed minds. Use that truth not as a weapon, but as fuel to ascend. When the crowd turns against you, it is not always a sign of failure. Sometimes it is the clearest proof that you have stopped being one of them. The strongest minds are often the most solitary. Not because they choose isolation, but because few can handle the weight of clear vision. Most exist in reaction. Few live with intention. If you want to rise, you must stop waiting to be understood. You must trust your reason above their emotion. Because the more you need their approval, the easier it is for them to shape your path. The moment you stop needing applause, you stop being controlled. And that is when real freedom begins. And from that freedom comes leverage. Let's continue. 6. Prepare quietly, move precisely. There is no fixed path to victory, only awareness. Every moment is a different terrain. Every person you meet carries a different agenda. That's why rigid systems fail. That's why principles, when followed blindly, become traps. Machiavelli understood that winning doesn't come from copying formulas. It comes from adapting, from reading the room, from bending the rules without breaking your core. The Stoics would call this living in accord with nature, not with rigidity, but with reason, guided by observation, not assumption. The world changes fast. What worked yesterday becomes obsolete today. Comfort is the enemy of strategy. The moment you stop evolving, someone else begins preparing to replace you. And they won't announce it. They'll wait until your guard is down, until your certainty becomes your weakness. Success is never owned. It's leased. And the rent is due daily, in awareness, in discipline, in restraint. There's no coasting. There's no standing still. You're either sharpening your edge or watching it dull in silence. Machiavelli once said that a leader should aim to be both loved and feared, but if he must choose, it's safer to be feared. Not because fear is cruel, but because love is fleeting. People forget, people shift, people disappoint. But fear, when rooted in consistency and competence, endures. Not fear that inspires dread, but the kind that builds weight, the kind that steadies the room when you walk in. That's not tyranny, that's presence. That presence doesn't come from loudness, it comes from mastery, from the inner command that says, I don't chase, I don't flinch, I don't crumble. In a chaotic world, self-command is rare, and what's rare becomes valuable, and what's valuable becomes powerful. The Stoics remind us, your mind is the only territory you truly rule. If you govern it well, no one can dethrone you. So govern it well. Let others try to guess your next move. Let them wonder what you're thinking. That uncertainty becomes your advantage, because when people can't read you, they hesitate. When they can't influence you, they respect you. And when they realize you won't bend to their approval or react to their provocations, they begin to shift. They begin to adjust, not because you asked them to, but because your presence forced them to. And that's where real advantage begins, not in manipulation, but in mastery. Not in pushing louder, but in standing firmer. So now, let's take this idea even further into the art of movement without exposure, and how the unseen strike always leaves the deepest mark. 7. Stay fluid, strike sharp. Machiavelli never told you to be heartless. He told you to be aware, strategic, sharp, capable of mercy, but never a servant to it. Kindness, when offered from strength, is noble. But kindness at the cost of your position, your leverage, or your clarity, that is weakness dressed in virtue. The Stoics understood this well. You must learn to hold two truths at once. The world can be beautiful, and it can be brutal. Hope is not a strategy. Wishes are not a plan. You don't overcome by wishing, only by acting with reason. If you want to win, you must outlast those who rely on instinct. You must outthink those who seek quick outcomes. You must adapt faster than those stuck in fixed tactics. Victory is rarely found in public applause. It's forged in silence, in the hidden moments of clear, deliberate decision. Winning isn't a final moment. It's a rhythm, a tension, a daily recalibration, because the moment you start feeling safe, you stop looking. And the moment you stop looking, someone else sees the opening. Machiavelli knew that complacency doesn't arrive with a warning. It arrives as satisfaction. It whispers that your edge is sharp enough, that your throne is stable. But the one who forgets the hunger it took to rise will never recognize the hunger rising beneath him. That's how power slips, quietly, gradually, and often too late. The Stoic stays alert, not paranoid, just present. Power is not maintained by force alone, it's sustained by awareness. And in a world that never stops shifting, your ability to observe must become your advantage. The world today moves fast. Technology disrupts. Cultures evolve. What works today is reverse-engineered and replaced tomorrow. So you must adapt, not in your values, but in your methods. Flexibility in strategy is not weakness, it's survival. The rigid mind breaks when the wind changes, but the one who bends with strength, like the reed in the storm, remains. That's how you stay timeless in a world rewriting itself daily. And with adaptability comes leverage, the skill to place small efforts at the precise moment to cause large effects. The understanding that not every opportunity must be chased, but when one is chosen, it must be struck with full intent. Most people waste energy explaining themselves, over-promising outcomes, or moving constantly just to appear in motion. But you will learn to conserve, to act only when alignment is clear, not out of hesitation, but control. There is immense strength in restraint. Just because you can act does not mean you should. And sometimes the most devastating move is the one others never saw coming because they assumed you were idle. That patience draws out their plan. That silence sharpens your edge. Because while they reveal their hand, you read the board. And this is what separates the casual player from the master. The master doesn't just move. He times. He shapes tension. He builds anticipation, because speed without purpose is chaos. But the one who moves at the moment of maximum impact and minimum exposure, he doesn't just win, he controls how the game ends. Let's continue by exploring how your silence, when paired with intent, becomes the blade that cuts deeper than any words ever could. 8. Move like a shadow, build like a king. This is what Machiavelli meant by preparation, not just planning, but the discipline to restrain, the patience to wait, the clarity to move without being rushed by emotion or noise. The Stoics taught that no enemy is greater than the undisciplined mind, because the most dangerous weapon used against you is not external, it's internal, it's your own unchecked reaction. Anger, desire, fear, if not governed, they become leashes. And if you cannot master them, someone else will pull the strings. The greatest victories don't come from overpowering others. They come from overcoming yourself. The one who can sit in discomfort, delay action, and choose clarity over chaos becomes immune to manipulation. This strength isn't loud. It doesn't parade itself. It moves in silence. It watches. It builds. It adapts. The powerful don't beg to be seen. They prepare in the shadows and let the outcome speak. Sovereignty is not isolation. It is independence of thought, independence of action. When you stop needing the world's affirmation, you begin acting on your own terms. Your focus sharpens, your decisions gain weight, and the room begins to feel your presence, not because you announce it, but because the way you move demands attention. In every world, political or personal, perception shapes reality. If people believe you are capable, they'll treat you that way. If they believe you are strategic, they'll assume every move you make has meaning. If they believe you're inevitable, they'll stop resisting. And that belief starts with how you carry yourself. Do you hesitate? Do you shrink in the face of disapproval? Or do you move like someone who needs no introduction? You become a force when your preparation is so precise, your intent so clear that you no longer need to convince. You simply deliver. And in that delivery, your presence becomes a move in itself. So don't ask the world what it can give you. Ask yourself, what will I take? What will I create? What will I endure and rise from? Not out of ego, but out of clarity, out of discipline. That's what makes a strategist. Not someone who is perfect, but someone who is quiet, deliberate, and unshakable. The kind of person who doesn't wait for power, but becomes it. This is your edge. Not just knowledge, but clarity sharpened into presence. Let it guide your choices, your stance, your silence. No one is coming to crown you. You must earn your place, shape your path, and rise by design. If this spoke to something deep within you, take a breath, subscribe, and share it with someone ready to see beyond illusion. Drop a comment below, play to win. And remember, the next move is always yours. Stay ready for what's coming next.